Landlords, it's Ernie Garcia, your landlord attorney, and today we're talking about cash and why you should stay away from it. Let's get started. I know. We take a look at this and we think this is what it's all about, right? The big money. But I'm going to tell you, it may not be so great. Let's take it from Ray Dalio, a billionaire, who coined the phrase, cash is trash. What did he mean by this? Well, there are certain drawbacks to cash, whether you're talking about investing or whether you're talking about what you use it for in terms of managing property. There are certain reasons why you should probably stay away from cash, and today we're going to talk about 4 of them. So we're programmed to believe that money works in a very specific way and only works that way. And when it comes to cash, we're taught from an early age that cash is king. But the truth is, cash can be a hassle. And we're going to talk about that today. In what ways can we, handle money in a better way? We're going to talk about that exact thing right now. For one, there are certain logistical issues that come with handling cash. You have to collect it. You have to deposit it. And it sometimes burns a hole right in your pocket. Collecting itself can be extremely dangerous, especially if you're collecting from tenants in a multi-unit. And either they come to you and deposit lots of cash where you are, making you a target, or you go to them and collect cash door to door, making you a target. That's just not a comfortable place to be. Also, there's the logistical issue of having to deposit cash. Sometimes you don't get it all in one fell swoop, and you're having to run to the bank 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 times in a given month, every month, to deposit all of the cash that you collect from all of your tenants. The other is kind of a human thing. When we've got cash, we're likelier to spend cash and not really think about it, and definitely not track it well. Cash comes with hassle. But it's not the only problem that you can get. Sometimes receiving cash itself creates problems. If, for example, you have a bank account and multiple tenants, and you tell your tenants in your lease, please deposit your rent into account XYZ, and we're good. Well, what happens when 5 tenants deposit cash in varying amounts, and you can't tell who deposited what when? That's a logistical nightmare, because you may have 4 deposits, but 5 tenants who claim they each made a deposit. And don't leave it to your tenants to clear up misconceptions with regard to money. If anything, you should have a better system, and a cash deposit into a single bank account for multiple tenants is a terrible, terrible system. No matter how you're accepting payments, whether it's cash or check or money order or credit card, you've got to have a ledger. Have a way where you are recording your payments. Time and time again, I take on clients who get this wide-eyed look like, what's a ledger? But you need to be able to prove when payments came in, especially if you're collecting late fees, because these are fact issues that maybe the eviction court doesn't handle, but sometimes the courts, when there's a repair or there's a security deposit dispute or some other breach of contract that you are accused of, these courts are going to want to take a look at. And even in an eviction, you can use your ledger in a way that maximizes the amount of money that you're collecting from your tenants. But if you're not keeping a ledger, you're simply holding yourself out at a huge amount of risk. Number one, losing out on money that you could collect. But number 2, you're putting a target on your back if you are ever challenged in a court and required to produce your ledger. And this is where we're headed. What is the number one reason you should never accept cash? Well, some of you are saying, Ernie, I've accepted cash from the very beginning. I'm the cash king and I know how to do it. I cover all of my bases. I keep a ledger and I produce a receipt for all of my tenants. Well, if you do, that's great. But if you've collected cash over time and you don't know exactly what the law requires, you could be for some big trouble. Landlords, I hope I've given you a lot to think about with this video. If you have enjoyed what you've watched, give us a like. And if you haven't yet subscribed, come on, subscribe to this channel. If you don't know what the property code says about collecting cash, you open the door for all sorts of bad things. Number one, if you're going to exclude a cash payment, it has to be done in a written lease. If you've got a written lease, my suggestion is always exclude cash payments. Again, cash can be convenient sometimes, but more often than not, it will create a hassle for you, especially if you have multiple tenants. If you have a written lease, exclude cash as one form of acceptable payment in your written lease. Next, if you're accepting cash, the Texas Property Code requires you, number one, to keep a ledger, and number two, to supply a written receipt for every cash payment you have ever collected. If you have failed to do this at any point and you're going to the court and asking the court to grant you possession and your tenant says, but I've made all my payments, I always make my payments in cash, to which you reply, that's true, but you've missed the last two of them, and because of that, I can request possession. Well, the very next question you may get asked is, really, where's your ledger? I don't got a ledger. Really, where's your receipt book? I don't got a receipt book. This is going to cause you huge problems. In fact, let's say it's your tenant who's suing, not you. And this lawsuit can come even from a non-tenant. An organization on behalf of a tenant could step in and file a lawsuit against you because you've been collecting rent in cash without a receipt book and without a ledger. And they can haul you into court and sue you and collect up to 1 month's rent for the benefit of the tenant and all of their attorney's fees. Don't put yourself in a situation where you are writing a check to your tenant because you collected all of your payments in cash in a way that violated the Texas Property Code. I'm always looking out for my landlords and giving you good information, stuff you can avoid or ways you can modify the things that you do that make you a better landlord. I'm hoping that every week you're coming back and you're getting new information and becoming better at this landlording thing. Every single week you're going to see videos from me. I hope that you watch a little more. In fact, here's a video here that YouTube seems to think that you will enjoy. And if you see a picture of my face, click on that picture and subscribe if you haven't done it yet. But until next time, landlords, happy leasing.